All right, so every now and then I'll see a new coffee gadget come up on my social media and immediately my gimmick alarm starts going off. And that was exactly what happened with these two things, the Subminimal Subscale and Flick. The Subscale, there is about 3 seconds of wow factor when that screen across the back first lights up, which is immediately followed by, wait a minute, do I actually need this thing? But when that screen does turn on, you are like surprised and it's like, okay, wow, that's novel. And then you go on their website and you see, okay, it's a scale and dosing cup. That's kind of cool. And then you scroll down until you get to this kind of ridiculous video of somebody pulling a shot of espresso into this thing, which doesn't really help with the whole gimmick factor. And then likewise, you have the Flick, which is a WDT tool, which has these little needles that come out. I got a million of these different things where you use them to distribute your puck of espresso. And then when you're done, you flick it and the needles disappear inside again. Pretty novel, but you have these videos online of people going like, what the Flick? And like, it's kind of cool, but also kind of gimmicky. And when I saw them, I just couldn't get over that gimmicky vibe that they both had. I'll be honest. And I kind of compartmentalized them and set them aside and then didn't really think about them too much. I thought, oh, this is like a social media trend thing. And that was that. And fast forward a few months, and the fine folks at Cafuné had sent me a box of different things to try out. And inside that box was one of each of these, as well as a Subminimal Nanofoamer and Nanofoamer Pro. And when I saw them in there, I kind of chuckled a little bit. And I thought, okay, well, let's try these out. And I opened them and I started using them. And I have to admit, I was a little surprised, maybe a lot surprised. Let's dig in, starting with the Flick. Now, as I mentioned, this is called a WDT tool. That stands for Weiss Distribution Technique. And that's a technique where you use something with these little needles to kind of move the grounds of coffee around in your espresso puck to kind of get them even, break up any clumps before you tamp. One of my preferred methods of distributing espresso and very useful technique. Most WDT tools have the needles out like this all the time. And usually it's only a matter of time until you drop it or you're putting it away wrong or whatever and you bend your needles. It's kind of a pain. With the Flick, when you're all done, you just flick it like that and the assembly with the needles on it slips back inside and a little magnet, I'm assuming, in here keeps it all wrapped up nicely in there. Very nice. Comes with a little stand and a little wall mount as well, which I've actually lost. It costs about 30 bucks, and that's not even a lot more actually than a regular old WDT tool that you can get for like 10 to 20 bucks. So pretty good value even as a straight WDT tool. The Subscale is a very interesting concept. Normally when you're weighing out your coffee for either a pour over or espresso, you need two things. You need a scale and you need one of these, a dosing cup. And the Subscale essentially combines these two things. But when you're making pour over or espresso, you really still need another scale anyway. So you have to ask, what is the point of this thing if it's not actually going to eliminate anything from your workflow? That's exactly the question I asked. You can switch between grams and ounces on here. The power button is on the front. It's got a auto off that does actually happen pretty quickly, especially if it's empty. I think it's 30 seconds. Charge wise, it lasts a really long time, which is a great thing. You don't really need to think about that very much at all. There is a calibration process, but features wise, that's basically it. Pretty streamlined, easy to use, very intuitive. Now, Subminimal is headquartered in Singapore. All their manufacturing is done in China, and they ship out of warehouses in California, Singapore, and the Netherlands. Now, one thing I always try and ask when I'm doing a review is about manufacturing standards and sustainability. So, I shot Subminimal a message on Instagram. I figured I'd start there, and I didn't get a message back from their social team. It was actually their owner had jumped in and said, "Hey, my name's Dominic. Great to meet you. I will get back to you on this today." And when I got Dominic's kind of in-depth reply, it was pretty obvious that this is a pretty passionate guy when it comes to his products and his company. Subminimal has passed an SMETA audit, which is a very good thing. This evaluates things like labor standards, health and safety, ethical business practices, and sustainability. They've also set up GMP processes when it comes to how they manufacture things. And they also track their carbon footprint in an effort to lower that with each passing year. So all of that is fantastic. Now, wherever people choose to manufacture, I really like to see it when that decision is made in order to bring the best product to market that they can in an ethical and sustainable way, rather than just chasing the lowest possible cost. And from everything I've heard and seen from the Subminimal team, they seem to be doing a good job in that regard. Now, back to the question though about the Subscale. If you're still going to need another scale to make coffee, then what is the point of this? Why do you need it? And I think the answer to that is you don't really need it, but it will make your life a lot more convenient than you might expect. At least it did for me. And it looks pretty cool too. Now, normally when you're making yourself a coffee, what you need to do is you need to get your scale. For me, a scale very often has something on it or is somewhere, like on my espresso machine or whatever. You turn your scale on, you get your dosing cup, you put it on your scale, then you need to zero your scale, you pour the coffee in, you get a little RDT bottle and you spritz it with water and then you shake it up. Then you reset your scale for your brewing. And for most coffee enthusiasts who brew pour over or espresso at home, that seems like a lot of little steps when you say them all out loud, but it really doesn't come across as a huge hassle once you get used to it. Just the way the Subscale is designed, it ends up eliminating a whole pile of those steps. Number one, with where the power button is, just when you go to grab it, often your thumb will land right on that button, turning it on. So you grab it and it's already on. You put your coffee in, like so, you spritz it with your water, shake it up, dump it into your grinder, and your primary scale is ready to go. It is actually a lot faster and it does have an extra wow factor. When I first saw this thing, I was really focused on the gimmicky nature of this screen right here. It just seemed like cool factor for no good reason, just to be totally honest. And I think I underestimated how convenient it was actually going to make those early stages of my workflow, be it pour over or espresso. Now, I think though, even if somebody had have explained it to me how it was going to make things more convenient, I still probably would have said, I'm not sure that's a problem that needs solving, until I started using it. And after spending some time with it, I can absolutely see how it really does solve a problem that I didn't even realize I had. It makes your life easier. And I like it when I get surprised at how a product can do that. Now, back to the Flick. Now, as I said, I love WDT tools. Distributing by WDT is one of my preferred ways of preparing espresso. I have a million WDT tools. The one that I use the most often was this one by S-Works Design. It's a great one. And normally I stick it right up here, more at the back though, of my range hood. And finding a way to store these things is actually one of the bigger issues with them, because these needles sticking out here, they're really fragile. Even on this one, you can see that I've got a bent needle sticking out on here. It doesn't really have any impact. It's just kind of annoying. Like you wish, it just kind of bugs you when you see it, I guess. And just because they're so thin and fragile, you kind of cringe even just setting it down on the table. You want to set it like this and they're easy to knock over, and figuring out a way to store them can just be a bit of a pain. And the Flick totally eliminates that problem. You flick it open, you distribute your grounds, then you flick it to put the needles away, and literally you can just chuck it in a drawer and be done with it. And this is what I do. I just keep it in a little drawer near where my espresso pour over stations are. I am so cavalier with how I'm handling this thing and throwing it around. It just is really refreshing after being really delicate with WDT tools for so many years. So again, I thought this was a huge gimmick. Wasn't really thinking that it was a problem that needed solving. I had my solution that worked, and then almost as soon as I got this thing, it became my main way that I was doing WDT. So another surprise. No product is perfect though, so if you're considering either the Flick or the Subscale, what are some cons and considerations that you might want to think about? Well, with the Flick, for one, the needles that it comes with are a lot thicker than personally I like. It comes with 0.5 millimeter needles installed, which really seems like a thick needle to me. The needles on my S-Works tamper, I think it's 0.24 mil, so like half the thickness. I really like thin needles on my WDT. Thankfully, they started including 0.3 millimeter needles. Still a little thicker than I would like, but definitely better than the 0.5 mil. I think it's probably just to make sure they're durable when it's coming in and going out like that. I do wish that there were an even thinner set that you could get, even if it was like an add-on that you had to get separately, because I know that there are a lot of like hardcore enthusiasts like me that would appreciate the convenience of the Flick, but may want an even finer needle. No idea if it would actually work or not, but would love to see that as an option. It is magnetic, which is nice. You know, I could even stick it on the fridge or stick it on different places in my espresso machine. Sometimes I wish those magnets were a little bit stronger, and I think it's just because there's this round part on here that prevents it from being just stuck flush onto something, but on the whole it's pretty good. White version would be nice. You know, I know Subminimal really has their black motif going on. They kind of stay in that lane, but on a white espresso machine it would be a little more subtle if it was available in white. A non-plastic version, even at a higher cost, would be nice. Again, I know Subminimal kind of has their lane. They don't really create a lot of versions of their products, but all in all, for like 30 bucks, it's pretty good value. The Subscale, also, you know, not a lot of cons really in the grand scheme of things. You know, you can't charge it standing up. You know, the charging port is on the bottom, so anytime you do need to charge it, you got to lay it down on its side, kind of like a Magic Mouse. It's not a huge deal. I think that's an aesthetic thing, and the battery life is really good on it. You know, I've had this thing for months, and I think I've charged it 2 times, maybe even 1 time. So the battery life with the auto off, it's going to last a long time. Again, a non-plastic version of this would be killer for anybody trying to minimize plastics in their world. I don't even know if there would be a way that you could execute that with these dimensions and this screen here. Besides that, I think the only other potential con could be cost. This is a little bit more expensive, certainly a lot more expensive than like a $15 Waitman scale that a lot of people use for espresso. This is kind of ratcheting up that price point for the sake of convenience. That being said, within the scope of espresso accessories, it's not a huge amount either. Oh, and I wish there was a white version too. That would be cool. Overall, very nice accessories, reasonable prices. I think that these bring a lot of value to both coffee beginners and enthusiasts alike. You know, again, I thought these things were pure gimmick. You know, the social campaigns, the what the Flick stuff, this has got a magic screen, you know, it's like, it really, I think, undersells the big increase in convenience, workflow, all of that comes with these products. It really did surprise me. Anytime I get surprised and I get a problem solved in my little coffee world that especially I didn't even realize I had, that's always a fun thing to review. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Subminimal Subscale and Flick. I hope your next cup of coffee is fantastic, and we'll see you on the next one.